Have you ever considered that a single simple thought could calm your restless heart even after the age of 70? Many people believe that as we grow older, our minds naturally slow down. But the truth is often the opposite. As we age, our inner world can become even more active, more crowded with worries, and more burdened by anxieties. Concerns about declining health changes in family dynamics, or reflections on life's purpose and its inevitable end can replay over and over like a soundtrack you can't turn off. The older we get, the more persistent and powerful these thoughts become. At times it may feel like you're drifting in a vast ocean, desperately reaching for peace, only for it to slip quietly through your fingers. And yet here's the beautiful truth: you can still reclaim calm within your mind, often by making just a few small shifts in the way you think. In today's video, I want to share with you 5 powerful thoughts that have helped countless older adults rediscover peace from within. These aren't just empty phrases or shallow encouragements. They are born from real-life experience, grounded in modern psychology, and enriched by the kind of wisdom that only time can provide. Each of these thoughts carries its own strength, but there is one in particular, just a few words long, that has the potential to calm your deepest anxiety if you truly take it to heart. If you're over 70 and often feel anxious for no clear reason, maybe you have sleepless nights, or your heart races without warning. This video may be the most valuable gift you give yourself this week. Because there's no such thing as too late when it comes to renewing your mind, and there's certainly no deadline for finding peace again. Best of all, you don't need to change who you are. Here's the good news: you don't have to force yourself to become someone else. All you need is to begin listening to your thoughts with more awareness and choose which ones you allow to stay. And that shift starts with these 5 life-changing ideas. Thought 1, this is just a thought, not a fact. It may sound so simple that you're tempted to overlook it, but this is perhaps the most important starting point of all. So many of us have gone through life believing that everything our mind says must be true. But that's not the case. Most of the anxiety and fear you experience doesn't come from reality itself. It comes from your reaction to a thought that you've accepted as absolute truth. After a lifetime of experiences, your brain has become a vast archive of memories, regrets, joys, and wounds. Sometimes without warning, it throws open that archive and tosses old slides of the past back into your awareness, memories you didn't ask for. You may hear a voice inside say, "What if I fall? What if I'm becoming a burden? Maybe my best days are behind me." These thoughts don't show up with warning labels. They arrive dressed as facts, convincing and familiar. And once you believe them, your body reacts, your chest tightens, your breathing quickens, your mind spirals into distress. Have you ever wondered, what if I fall? Or what if I become a burden to those around me? Or what if the best days of my life are already gone? These questions usually don't arrive with alarms or red flags. They sneak in quietly, wrapped in the appearance of truth, so believable that we rarely stop to challenge them. And when you fully believe in them, it feels like your mind contracts, your chest grows heavy, your thinking becomes clouded, and your sense of peace begins to fade. But here's where something remarkable can happen. If in that very moment you pause, take a deep breath, and say to yourself, "Hold on, this is just a thought," something shifts. That single moment of mindfulness creates a gap between you and your fear. You stop reacting as if every anxious thought must come true. Instead, you begin to see the pattern your mind has been playing, the same fearful story again and again, like an old radio stuck on a loop. And once you notice that you get to make a choice, you can turn it off. Let me share a real story with you about a woman named Margaret. She was 81 years old when I met her at a group support session. Every morning she would wake up with her heart pounding, convinced that something terrible was just around the corner. And yet her health was stable. Her family was doing fine. But her mind kept warning her of disasters that never came. One day during a group conversation, someone shared a simple thought that changed everything for her. "Just because I think it doesn't mean it's true." That sentence hit her like a lightning bolt. She realized she had been living under a sky full of imaginary clouds. The storm wasn't out there in her life, it was inside her mind. And the next morning, when that familiar anxious feeling returned, she whispered to herself, "This is just a thought, not a fact." It didn't erase the fear instantly, but it gave her a tool. And over time, that tool gave her strength. One day during a group session, someone shared a simple yet profound sentence. Not every thought is true. It sounded gentle, almost casual. But for Margaret, it landed like a bolt of lightning. That one phrase awakened her. She suddenly realized that for so long, she had been living under a sky full of imagined dark clouds. The storm wasn't in her life, it was in her mind. And the very next morning, when the familiar wave of anxiety began to rise, she quietly whispered to herself, "It's just a thought, not a fact." No, the fear didn't disappear right away. But that phrase became her key. And slowly that key began to unlock a new door, one that led her out of the invisible prison of anxious thoughts. You see, this doesn't mean we ignore reality or avoid real problems. On the contrary, it helps us face reality without being dragged down by the negative stories our minds often create. Because when we treat every thought as a warning, we end up living in a false world, a world filled with imagined danger, rejection, or failure, even if none of it is actually happening. But when you remind yourself not every thought deserves to be believed, you take back your power. You're no longer the victim of your mind, you become the listener, the observer. And that shift in awareness can change your entire inner world. Because the mind's job is to produce thoughts, that's what it does. But you get to decide which ones to welcome and which ones to let pass by like clouds in the sky. Thought 2, I can't control everything, but I can choose what I focus on. The older we get, the more valuable this idea becomes. In your later years, peace doesn't come from having fewer thoughts. It comes from believing fewer lies. And the moment you stop and say, "That's just a thought," you take a major step toward emotional freedom. One of the heaviest burdens older adults often carry is the illusion of control. The belief that if I just worry enough, plan hard enough, or stay alert long enough, I can stop bad things from happening. But especially after age 70, life keeps teaching us the same lesson: no amount of anxiety can change the future. The weather shifts without notice. Our health rises and falls. Loved ones make choices we don't understand. And the world keeps spinning with or without our permission. And if you try to carry all of that on your shoulders, you'll eventually feel exhausted, bitter, and powerless. That's why this next thought can feel like a breath of fresh air. I can't control everything, but I can choose where I place my attention. Let that settle in. You may not be able to bring your children back home. You can't turn back time or rewrite a diagnosis. You can't force the world to bend to your will. But what you can do every single day is choose where your mind rests. You can choose to focus on what's missing or on what still remains, and what scares you or what you still love. You can wake up and feel only the ache in your back, or smile at the sunlight filtering through your window. I once spoke with a man named Henry, 84 years old. He had lost his wife 3 years earlier. For months, Henry lived in a home that felt filled with silence. Every morning he woke up and stared at the empty pillow beside him. Every night he battled fading memories of her voice. It was the same day after day. Until one quiet afternoon, while taking a slow walk through the park, a bright red cardinal landed on a branch just in front of him. Henry looked up, and for the first time in weeks, he smiled. That small moment changed something. That small moment changed Henry. Not because the grief disappeared, but because he chose not to let it consume him anymore. He began to shift his attention to what was still present around him: flowers growing by the sidewalk, a neighbor's friendly wave, a warm dinner at the end of the day. And little by little, his anxiety began to loosen its grip. You see, no one is asking you to forget your pain, but you can choose to live with it in a way that still lets light in. And when you do, something in the mind begins to transform. You're no longer just reacting to everything that happens. You become the one who actively chooses where your heart will rest. Remember, this doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. Not at all. It means reclaiming your power by choosing where to shine your light. Anxiety thrives in the dark corners of the mind, the places where your attention gets stuck day after day. But when you gently shift your focus, you remind yourself you're not helpless. You're not just a bystander while your thoughts run wild. You are the one holding the flashlight, and you get to decide what parts of your life to illuminate. The good things are still there, they haven't vanished. You just forgot to shine a light on them. If you're still with me and these thoughts are resonating with you, please leave a comment with the number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. Your support is what inspires us to keep creating meaningful, uplifting content just like this. Thought 3, every moment is a chance to begin again. One thing that often discourages older adults is the idea that their life story is already written, that the exciting chapters are over, and all that's left is a quiet, perhaps even dull conclusion. But that couldn't be further from the truth. One of the most empowering thoughts you can carry, especially after 70, is this: every moment in life is a chance to begin again. This thought doesn't ask you to forget the past. It doesn't erase your mistakes, regrets, or emotional scars. What it does offer is something incredibly valuable, a blank page in this present moment, a fresh start, a chance to exhale, reset, and begin again. Even if you've been anxious for a whole year or you've just had one overwhelming hour, you can still begin again. Right now, anxiety often pretends it's permanent. It whispers, "You'll always feel like this." It convinces you that it's too late to change. It tries to make you believe that your past patterns will forever shape your future. But the truth is, the human mind is more flexible than we think. You are not your anxiety. You are the one who notices it, the inner observer. And the moment you become aware of that, you've already taken a huge step toward emotional freedom. I'm reminded of a woman named Linda. She's 76. And for most of her life, she lived as if she were wearing a second skin made of anxiety, something she could never take off. She worried about her health, her finances, what others thought of her, and even about the weather the next day. Linda, this 76-year-old woman I mentioned, often felt like her brain had a mind of its own. Her thoughts constantly bounced from one worry to the next. An endless stream of fears poured in like a waterfall, sweeping her away before she could catch her breath. Then one day, during a gentle breathing session at her local senior center, something shifted inside her. With bright, awakened eyes, she shared, "Just for a moment, I stopped chasing every thought. I let them pass like clouds drifting by. And in that moment, I felt free." Of course, that feeling didn't magically heal everything, but it opened a window, a glimpse of what was possible. And from that moment on, she chose to commit to the practice. Each morning before breakfast, Linda would sit quietly for just 2 minutes and gently remind herself, "I get to begin again." It was only 2 minutes, but gradually it became the most peaceful part of her entire day. The beauty of this thought lies in its simplicity. It frees you from the pressure to fix your whole life all at once. You don't have to erase every fear. You don't need to become a flawless version of yourself. All you need is to begin again with something small, a kind word to yourself, a new habit, or even just one mindful breath. And when you live from that place that gives you permission to begin again, moment by moment, anxiety no longer runs your life. Because in those moments, you are no longer trapped in the past nor panicked about the future. You are simply here in the present, the only place where peace ever truly lives. So the next time you feel tired, overwhelmed, or discouraged, don't force yourself to be okay. Don't criticize yourself for struggling. Just pause, breathe slowly, and whisper to your heart, "This is a new moment. I still have a chance." You are not stuck, you are not broken, you are still alive, and you still have the power to begin again anytime you choose. Thought 4, you are not your thoughts. There's a simple truth that's surprisingly difficult to grasp, especially after a lifetime of believing the opposite. Just because a thought appears doesn't mean it's true. And yet so many people over the age of 70 have spent years suffering because they misunderstood this. You wake up feeling low and your mind whispers, "I'm no longer useful," or "No one remembers me anymore." And just like that, your mood collapses like a sandcastle swept away by the tide. But here's the truth, one that may seem small, but has the power to change everything. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. And once you see that difference, the way you live each day begins to shift. The human mind produces thoughts just like the lungs produce breath. It's a natural automatic process, and often it happens without your control. Thoughts rise and fall like waves crashing on the shore, but you are not the wave. You are the shore. You are the one watching the waves come and go. As we grow older, everything around us begins to change. The pace of life slows down. Old routines fade away, losses accumulate over the years, and the quiet moments become more frequent. And in that silence, the mind begins to speak up more. It fills the stillness with stories, most of them tinged with sadness or fear. But the mistake isn't in having those thoughts. The mistake is believing them without question. Just because a thought repeats often doesn't make it true. Just because it feels real doesn't mean it reflects reality. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's helpful. I remember Henry, a man living in a small town in Iowa. When I met him, he was 81 years old and had been widowed for 5 years. He once told me that he felt like he was just taking up space. Those were his exact words. My kids don't call as much anymore. My knees ache. My hands shake. I'm not who I used to be, he said quietly. Each day, thoughts like those played on repeat like a broken record stuck in the same loop. And eventually he began to believe them. Then one day during a simple meditation session at his local church, someone shared a thought that woke him up. Thoughts are like cars on a road. You don't have to chase everyone. That image stuck with him. And from that point on, every time his mind whispered, "You're useless." Henry didn't argue. He didn't panic. He simply smiled and said, "There goes that old car again." And just like that, he let it pass like any other car on the road. See, the thoughts didn't disappear, but they lost their power because he stopped treating them like truth. There's a deep kind of freedom that arises when you realize that you don't have to believe everything your mind says, especially the thoughts born from fear, shame, or loneliness. Those thoughts may visit you, but you don't have to invite them in. You don't have to engage with them. You don't need to argue. You can simply notice them and gently return your attention to what is real. Your feet on the floor, the warmth of the tea in your hands, the kind smile of a neighbor saying good morning. The thought "I am not my thoughts" doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It's not about denial. On the contrary, it gives you something incredibly valuable: space. Space to take a step back just far enough to see your mind clearly without being swept away like a leaf in a raging stream. And most importantly, it reminds you of this. Your worth is not determined by the passing thoughts that show up on a gloomy morning. Your worth is rooted in your being, your ability to feel, to observe, to grow, even now at whatever age you are. So if one day, maybe tomorrow, or even today, your mind starts speaking harsh words that discourage you, remember this: you don't need to fight it. You also don't need to follow it. Just pause for a moment and choose not to believe it. Your mind is not the final judge, you are. You decide what gets to stay in your heart. If you're still watching and these words are reaching you, please leave a comment with the number 4 below to let me know you are here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I warmly invite you to do so and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any upcoming videos. Your support is what fuels us to continue creating content that is thoughtful, healing, and meaningful. Thought 5: nothing lasts forever. There's a truth so simple we often forget it. Everything passes. And yet when anxiety creeps in, especially in the later years of life, it often stems from a quiet longing that things could just stay the same, or from the fear that this awful feeling will never go away. But here, right here, is one of the most liberating thoughts, even if only a few truly embrace it. No emotion is permanent. Joy doesn't last forever, but neither does sadness. Fear eventually fades. All emotions, whether positive or negative, are like waves. They arrive, linger for a while, and then recede. That's also true for the heaviness you may be carrying, the nagging doubts, or the panic attacks that seem to come out of nowhere. Once you accept this, you no longer have to brace yourself against the feeling. Instead, you breathe through it, and eventually you move past it. I remember Clara, a 77-year-old woman I once met. She had just been diagnosed with a chronic illness. From that day on, each morning felt like a battle with her mind, flooded with questions like, will I lose my independence? Will I become a burden? These thoughts would visit her even before her feet touched the ground. And because she believed those fears would always be with her, the anxiety began to grow deeper roots within her. But over time, through gentle conversations and short meditation sessions, Claire began to say something to herself whenever the anxiety returned. This feeling will pass. At first it felt hollow, like an empty phrase people say just to feel better. But she didn't give up. And slowly something remarkable happened. She stopped fighting the fear. Instead, she watched it like someone standing at the shore watching a boat drift away. And sure enough, the fear drifted. It didn't disappear completely, but it no longer ruled her life. Because once you stop believing that this fear will last forever, it stops having control over you. A deep peace begins to settle in when you truly feel the impermanence of all things. Think of the seasons, how winter quietly makes way for spring, There's no force, just time and natural transition. Your emotions are like that too. They come and go like the seasons in your life. They don't need to be instantly fixed or solved. They just need to be heard, witnessed, and allowed to leave when it's time. The trouble is when we hold tightly to our sadness or resist our anxiety, we unknowingly give it more strength. But when we release gently and accept that everything is moving, we open up a new space, one where wisdom and peace can enter. Remember, your body is changing. Your relationships are changing, and your mind is constantly evolving. Not because you're weak, but because you're alive. And life never stands still. You don't need to become numb or indifferent. On the contrary, you're growing. You're becoming number. A storm in your mind is like a storm in the sky. You can't stop it, but you can find shelter and wait. And in that waiting, you'll remember something simple: no storm lasts forever. Just knowing that can take the pressure off your chest. If it's not forever, then you can get through it. And sometimes you may even grow from the experience. Most importantly, when you accept that nothing lasts forever, you begin to cherish the small things happening right now. The taste of warm soup, the familiar sound of an old friend's voice, or the soft afternoon light spilling through the window. These are not trivial. This is life, fragile, precious, and ever-changing. We can't hold on to them forever, but we can meet them again with new eyes, with gratitude, knowing that next time they won't appear exactly the same. So if today your heart feels heavy, anxious, or confused, gently whisper to yourself, this feeling will pass. And always remember, the sun may set each night, but by morning it rises again. Just like that, your heart will eventually find warmth again. Let this thought settle into every cell of your being. Nothing lasts forever, and that not something to fear. That's what makes life lovable, livable, and worth cherishing. If there's one thing I've learned after all these years on this earth, it's this: peace doesn't live in some faraway place. It's not at the top of a mountain, not in a perfect life, not in days without sorrow. Peace has always been here within you. Peace is not a gift someone gives you. It doesn't come from the outside, but is nurtured slowly and quietly through the thoughts you choose to believe, through the days you dare to live in alignment with your own heart. After 70, when life finally slows enough for you to hear your own heartbeat, these gentle thoughts become more powerful than ever. Anxiety may still knock on your door, but you don't have to let it in anymore, because now you have gentle mantras to face it, to embrace it, and then to let it go. Most people spend their whole lives trying to change their circumstances, hoping that once everything settles, they'll finally find peace. But the truth is, life never stops changing. Some days are smooth, others rocky. Nothing stands still forever. What truly makes the difference is how you receive those moments, and that starts with the words you whisper to yourself in your quietest hours. Even something as simple as "I've made it through every hard day so far," or "I don't need to control everything to be at peace." Just one small shift like that can open a new door in your heart. Of course, there will be days when the old fears come back, maybe even stronger than before. But if you can just hold on to one of the thoughts from today, like a lantern in the night, you won't lose your way. Because anxiety is born from helplessness. But wisdom, the kind only time and experience can offer, gives you your power back. Next time your heart feels unsteady, don't run. Sit with it. Gently ask what it's trying to protect. And softly whisper, "I'm no longer who I used to be. I've grown." Then little by little, tell yourself the truth that you have a right to be at peace. You've weathered too many storms. Let peace become the reward you so deeply deserve. If something in this video spoke to you today, a thought, a sentence, or a quiet moment that touched you, leave a comment below. Share something you have learned and how you plan to bring it into your life. Your words are a great encouragement to us and might be the light someone else out there is looking for. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. Your support helps us continue creating inspiring, healing content that spreads warmth and positivity to the senior community. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. See you in the next video, where we'll keep walking the journey of befriending ourselves and living each moment fully.